Warning, this video contains language that is not safe for work. You've been warned. Hello, I'm BMillzebub, and welcome to my channel. This is going to be a long one. Some of you may not be familiar with her, but to those of you who are, you know who she is. I am, of course, referring to Kaitlin Bennett, the same woman who walked around Kent State University with an AR-10 slung on her back for reasons. From what I've seen, it's not too uncommon to see Kaitlin firing a gun in her videos, but even at the least confident I was in my masculinity, which was when I was a conservative, by the way, I never felt the need to fire a big gun in any video I took or posted of myself. And let's face facts, I've fired bigger and more fun guns than that shotgun she's firing in her video. Ever seen an M240 Bravo or an M249? I'm not gonna lie, the M249 is my personal favorite firearm of all time. For my size, it has an excellent length and weight balance. Look them up on Google Images and you'll see exactly what I mean. But as much fun as I had with every gun I fired in the Air Force, I knew they weren't toys, and I wouldn't treat them as such either. Which is exactly what Kaitlin here seems to think they are, is toys.
I really don't care that government employees aren't getting their paychecks, and neither should you.
Damn yeah, girl, be all about that slave labor. Seriously, fuck the Coast Guard, prison guards, and Postal Service. All those useless fuckers, right?
The Democratic Party is in shambles over the fact that non-essential government employees aren't getting their paychecks during this government shutdown they created.
Yes, the Democratic Party does seem to be in shambles, alright. But they're not the ones who created this shutdown. Donald Trump is responsible for that all by his lonesome. He's the one who decided to not keep the government open, and he's the one who's rejected each attempt to reopen the government, despite legislative attempts to reopen the government on both sides. Trump has refused to do so until he gets his wall that will cost $5 billion plus and do damn well nothing. So no, this shutdown isn't on the Democrats.
But that begs asking, if they are non-essential, then why are they being paid in the first place?
Because you're misunderstanding the term from the jump. Technically, because we have a Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security can technically be rendered non-essential. So anything that falls under Homeland Security, those employees aren't receiving payment for the work that they do. Employees such as those who work in the TSA and Coast Guard. I know my remarks at the beginning of the video were quite glib, but they remain true nonetheless. Those people aren't getting paid for the very real work that they're doing.
And if I'm the one writing their paycheck, why don't I have the option to stop sending my money if I don't want to pay them?
First of all, you're paying an incredibly small fraction of what these government employees earn. And second, let me learn you something here. Someone like you and your buddies at InfoWars definitely want a big daddy-dicked military, right? So everyone should have to pay into it. Well, a lily-livered, bleeding-heart lib like myself thinks that people should have to pay into a Medicare for All system. Here's the rub. Just because you don't like something about government doesn't mean you get to opt out of it. I don't like the rampant military spending, and I'm a former airman. Just in case you don't know what that means, I was a member of the United States Air Force. Something you most assuredly wouldn't be willing to do with your life because you haven't got the guts for it. But being a military veteran gives me a certain perspective. Don't get me wrong, it's not shared by all veterans, but even so. The rate at which our government spends money on the military is way too costly. Our country has been in a near constant state of war since its inception, and quite a bit of that has only cost us blood and treasure. Sure, quite a bit of it went to great causes such as wiping out Nazism, but a lot of it has been wasted, recently in particular in a war on terror that has been an abject failure. The Middle East is more of a disaster zone now than it was before we went in. So tell me, has the money we spent there really been worth it? You know where that global war on terror money could have gone instead of that money pit? We could have fed people in our country, forgiven college loan debt, worked to end homelessness, and provided single-payer health care for every citizen of this country. Real services that we could have used. But please, keep telling me how you shouldn't have to pay taxes into shit you don't like.
This is the underlying issue beneath all of this. If I don't like iPhones, I don't have to send my money to Apple.
Yeah, I don't much care for Apple myself, hence I own an Android. But whether you like a government service or not, chances are someone is in need of that service that you don't like. And what is government for but to protect our civil liberties and provide the public welfare of the people whom it serves? Do you see how you're being an infantile brat?
But if I don't like the government, I'm not allowed to say, no, you won't get my money. They will take it from me without my consent, or threaten me with arrest.
You don't seem to have an understanding of government. Perhaps when your school district cut funding, you lost your government and economics classes that I was required to take to graduate high school. But the way government is supposed to work is by the consent of the governed. And we, the governed, have decided that we want to live in as stable a society as we can. That requires taxes. And whether you like the tax or not, it provides for public services that someone needs. Maybe not you in the moment, but maybe someday in the future. I didn't always need food assistance, but this program that I'll assume you don't favor did me a world of good when I needed it. You know what? It makes me glad that I did and still do pay into it because it helps someone in need, including myself. I'm not a greedy little child like you. I'm grown and have experienced the world beyond my own small town bubble. And speaking of the threat of arrest, the government isn't going to come at you the way you showed in your video for owed taxes. That's how they go after violent criminals.
If Apple did this, we would call it theft. If any individual did this, we would call it theft. So why do we lie to ourselves and call it taxation when it comes to the government?
Why the you lying? Why you always lying?
You're right. If Apple or an individual did this, it would be theft. But you know what the difference between Apple, an individual, and the government is? If you don't, then I know you weren't paying attention to what I just said. The government operates by the consent of the governed, and we, the governed, have given consent to be taxed at a reasonable rate for government services.
Just because they wear suits and ties doesn't mean the principle changes. The fact is that if any of us tried to do what the government does and force people to pay us instead of trying to make an honest living, we would be imprisoned.
Give me your f***ing money!
You know a lot of people who work at Apple wear suits and ties too, right? Same with a lot of individual people. I'm wondering how well you understand the real world, because from this clip, you seem to believe that authority is predicated on the clothing someone wears. But speaking of making an honest living, have you gotten a job in your field yet? I don't know if you actually work at InfoWars, or if you're just making a one-off video for them because you happen to be the flavor of the month, but chances are your real-world experience is almost zero. Once again, I was one of those lazy government schlubs you're bitching about, and I was in the military. Or do conservatives not have a raging hard-on for the military anymore?
But instead, we will be imprisoned if we don't let the government do this to us.
Once again, you demonstrate a fundamental misunderstanding of the law. Yes, you can be imprisoned for tax evasion or tax fraud, but if you legitimately can't pay your taxes, you won't be imprisoned. You're simply talking out of your ass here. Seriously, do they let people graduate high school without government or economics classes anymore?
How backwards is that? Maybe instead of discussing what we can do to reopen the government, we should be having a conversation about how we can shut it down for good.
Fuck, you're dumb. I usually try to stay away from insults, but fuck, she's dumb. Did you not listen to a word I just said about government services? How they benefit people, including yourself? You benefit from having the ability to receive financial assistance, whether for food or housing, from the government. You benefit from police protection and military protection, sponsored by the government. The list of benefits you stand to have from the government goes on and on and on. You're just a spoiled little brat who doesn't know shit about the world outside the incredibly small piece of geography you've been in.
We should be talking about why it's morally wrong for anyone to forcibly take someone else's property from them.
At this point, you have no right to talk to me about what is morally wrong. You don't seem to understand the simple concept that the government operates on the consent of the governed. And though I'll argue it doesn't always do a perfect job at it, it does a better job than any form of government that you could conjure out of your ass.
Taxation is theft, and I hope these welfare leeches will find real jobs instead of sucking off the taxpayers.
Taxation is theft only if you're a child who doesn't understand taxes to literally any degree. And for the third time, those welfare leeches you're talking about are the Coast Guard, prison guards, air traffic controllers, and many others that you don't seem to understand the necessity of.
I believe in you guys. I'm even willing to help you guys get set up on Monster or Indeed.
That was easy.
Please just stop taking my damn paycheck and do something productive for the world for once.
Have you actually ever earned a paycheck from a full-time job? I ask because you're a recent college grad and haven't had much time to find a real full-time job yet. I've had a few full-time jobs in my time and paid my fair share of taxes, and I'm happy to continue paying taxes because I'm not a greedy little shit who demands that I only pay for things that directly benefit me right now. I have empathy for my fellow human beings, which you clearly lack from everything you've said in this video so far. Honestly, you make me sick.
Taxation is theft.
Fuck, you're dumb. Look, if you want anarchy, go to Somalia. You'll find the anarchy you're looking for there. But if you want decent governance that provides services to people in all walks of life, by all means, stay here. Just don't bitch about helping people who need it. If you want to complain about something, complain about a real problem. Complain about the government letting multi-million or multi-billion-dollar corporations get away with paying nothing in taxes, getting free rides from the government while pocketing tremendous amounts of cash while profiting on the backs of people like us. Don't complain about the person who lives paycheck to paycheck asking for food assistance, or the person who does an essential job in the government who just wants to be paid for the work they do. You seriously didn't bother yourself with any research, otherwise half of the video you posted wouldn't exist, and that's being generous. But that'll do it for this one. What are your thoughts on Kaitlin Bennett's video? Let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, linked below, to keep up with all my comings and goings, and join my Discord for a chance to talk to yours truly. Once again, I'll leave a link to my Amazon wish list posted in the description below, as there are a few items I need to improve the quality of my videos that I just don't have the money to afford right now. Any help would be greatly appreciated. But take it easy, everyone, and I will see you all in the next one.